So Nintendo is back at it again, and honestly, nobody should be surprised because when it comes to Nintendo and Nintendo fans, and especially the internet, Nintendo just doesn't seem to care about their fans and what their fans are doing. It's like if you do anything with Nintendo property, they're just going to shut you down and they're going to copyright strike you, or in a lot of instances, they'll just downright take your stuff out. And honestly, it doesn't make any sense. And I think a lot of people agree because what makes these companies are actually the fans who make these companies. Without the fans of these actual companies, then they wouldn't even be in business, honestly. And why does Nintendo, out of all the companies, have to be this really strict company that just won't get with the times? It's kind of like if you do one thing with their properties, they'll just take you down. And honestly, I'm just not a big fan of that. And I think most people understand and agree. It's just not a great look considering Nintendo fans are just trying to express their freedom when it comes to Nintendo properties and Nintendo IPs and overall the Nintendo brand, because Nintendo does make some of the best IPs and some of the best video games of any company out there. But then again, they just do not like their fans. It's like you can't even do anything with Nintendo property. I remember a couple of years ago, some people were making a Mario game for the Commodore 64, and honestly, who cares about that? They weren't even profiting off it. It's not like they are making money on it, and it's not like most people would have cared about that project anyway. It's only going to speak to a couple of people in the world because who cares about the Commodore 64? But Nintendo's like, nope, we don't want nothing to do with the Commodore 64, so let's go ahead and strike you down and take out your game. Same thing with another Metroid remake. I think some fan made that game, and that game went horribly bad. They took that game down and they strike that game, which doesn't make sense. Again, that person wasn't trying to actually profit off that game as well, which doesn't make sense. But it looks like Nintendo is back at it again. Another YouTuber, I forgot his name, basically was making Breath of the Wild mods for the game, and they were just expressing their passion for the game, and they were actually following all the Nintendo guidelines. But the thing is, Nintendo just struck all their videos, and it's absolutely frustrating when you're a person that's really passionate about a lot of Nintendo IPs and you're just trying to have fun with their IPs, but then they're just striking your videos down without any real good reason or rhyme to strike their videos down. I know Nintendo does have rights to their IPs and rights to their things, but it's not like we're doing anything really bad with their IPs. As long as you're following their guidelines, even if you're doing mods and things like that, it just doesn't make sense to me, and it's just flat out disgusting what Nintendo actually likes to do when it comes to their fans and things like that. It's like they don't want any publicity, they don't want anybody to promote their Nintendo games. They don't want anyone to mod their games. They don't want anyone to upload songs of their game. It's like you can't do anything with Nintendo IP or Nintendo will come after you and shut you down. That's why Nintendo, I just don't understand in the time and age we live in when most companies out there see this as actually a really good thing for their brand and for their company and for their games. A lot of other companies out there would be glad for you to mod their games and actually show footage on the internet or promote their games and things like that. And they know it's good for their business because it's good promotion, especially on the internet. But it's like, yeah, you can't even have fun with Nintendo IPs, even if you're doing the right thing and you're actually following the guidelines and you're actually not profiting off it or anything too crazy like that. You just can't do anything with Nintendo IPs. It's kind of like they hate their fans. Why would you absolutely hate your fans just for having fun with your IPs and fun with your games? And then just strike all their stuff down and try to take them out. It just honestly doesn't make sense because we're not actually doing bad things with your video games or your IPs or your company. We're just trying to show how passionate we are about your franchises, your games, and things like that. And for Nintendo just to strike down random people's videos on the internet is just absolutely insane. And honestly, I think most people will agree with me as well. I don't think Nintendo's ever going to get with the times. I think Nintendo's pretty much one of those stubborn companies that's pretty much going to be like this for the end of time. Anything you do with Nintendo IP, Nintendo's just probably going to come after you because that's just the way they are and you can't really trust them. I actually remember back in the day as well, Nintendo wouldn't actually allow you to monetize any videos with the Nintendo footage or Nintendo music in it, just due to the fact that they wanted most of the revenue, and you actually had to be in a program with Nintendo. And the thing is, Nintendo would take a cut on top of what you already made on YouTube, and honestly, it just was not a good look. And it really seemed like most people just probably were better off not actually trying to make videos on Nintendo properties and Nintendo things, just due to the fact that them taking out of a cut for you being in the Nintendo program, on top of the YouTube taking a percentage off as well. It just honestly didn't make sense to me. Why would anyone want to be a Nintendo ambassador or make videos on Nintendo? And honestly, it's still pretty much the same now. Sure, we don't have the Nintendo program where you actually have to be signed up with Nintendo to actually monetize your videos and things like that. But the thing is, you just can't trust Nintendo, and they're willing to go pretty far with this kind of stuff. Like, again, that kid who was making Breath of the Wild stuff, and then he got copyright strike. They really want to take you down. It's not like a little thing. They strike multiple videos down, and like I said, he was following the guidelines. He was following the rules. He was doing everything right. And for Nintendo to go in there and actually strike his stuff down just doesn't seem the greatest. Like I said, again, I understand that Nintendo is a company and they own the rights to those games and those franchises, and they can technically do what they want. But you don't see every other franchise and every other company out there who makes games wanting to do something like this. It honestly doesn't make sense. Why do you think other companies don't do it? Because they want to show that they actually care about their fans and good promotion, and they don't want any quote-unquote bad blood with their fans of those games, and they actually see it as a win-win scenario. And I agree. If I actually had a company and I actually was making games or making different products, I wouldn't be striking down my excuse me, I wouldn't be striking down other people's content on the internet, as long as they're following the guidelines and they're not doing anything too crazy and things like that. It's one thing to make content on this stuff, but it's another thing to profit off of Nintendo's properties by doing other things like illegal things. And most people aren't even doing things that are really illegal with Nintendo games for the most part. A lot of times, or most of the times, when you hear these stories about people's videos getting taken down, their songs getting taken down, things like that, it just doesn't make sense, just because, like I said, they're following the rules most of the time. It doesn't make sense. One thing I'm not actually happy about as well, going with Nintendo, is the fact that anytime you want to upload Nintendo music to the internet, they always want to strike it down. And again, I totally understand that, because it is Nintendo and they do have the rights to strike down things like that, because they do own the rights to those songs. But the thing is, if you think about it, especially when it comes to Nintendo IPs and Nintendo songs, we really don't have a good way to actually access Nintendo songs. Maybe besides playing Smash Brothers and listening to all the songs through Smash Brothers or YouTube or other stuff like that, we don't actually have a way to actually pay Nintendo for their music, because a lot of their music is flat out fantastic. And Nintendo should not be striking down channels who release Nintendo music to the public, just due to the fact that we cannot pay you for your songs. If we could pay you for your songs, I'm sure a lot of people would be willing to pay for Nintendo songs and actually flat out buy them outright so they can listen to them on their own. So yeah, it just sucks that they take these songs down, and we don't really have another good way to actually pay for their songs or support their songs. What Nintendo should theoretically do is they should release all their songs on Spotify or Apple Music, because people on those websites, just like YouTube, do get paid for their actual work and things like that. And if they don't want to actually charge for their music, just release your music there. Every time someone plays it, they're going to get money for it anyway. So why not make extra money? Doesn't Nintendo... something about Nintendo just doesn't make sense to me, and honestly, I think a lot of people agree. It always seems like, too, when it comes to their IPs, when it comes to their franchises, when it comes to their properties, it just seems like time and time again, Nintendo just does not care about making the most money possible, because there's a lot of things that are like a no-brainer that everyone looks at and it's like, yeah, why is Nintendo doing this? They'll be making much more profit if they did this. So yeah, overall, I just do not understand Nintendo as a company, and it is a shame. They do make a lot of good IPs and a lot of good properties, but it's always a shame that it seems like time and time again, every time an article comes out about Nintendo, it just seems like Nintendo's trying to come after their fans, and they're really against their fans. And it's not really too common with a lot of other companies. Sure, most companies don't really care about their consumers all that much, because your only one goal when it comes to being a business is to make as much money as possible, because that's the only reason you're in business, to make money. But the thing is, the amount of stuff that Nintendo does that other companies don't do is just absolutely insane, and it doesn't make sense. And something really has to be done with Nintendo when you know they're coming after people like the guy who made all these Breath of the Wild mod videos is getting struck down, even though he's in the rights to this stuff, and his stuff doesn't deserve to be taken down. Just because he mods the game, he's not really doing anything too bad as far as I'm aware. It's not like he's putting bad stuff in the game or anything like that. He's definitely following the rules, and he's already explained it. And it's just ridiculous what Nintendo does when it comes to their IPs and when it comes to their properties. They will just not stop. Anyway, guys, this is Wayne signing out.